Welcome back to another 10 minutes. I'm Isaiah and that's George. We appreciate your time and please subscribe if you like our videos. We appreciate it. So recently I watched a debate that aired 7 years ago and it popped up randomly in my feed. Well, somebody's response to it, an analyzation of it, that released like yesterday. Referred to that 7-year-old uh, debate, which is kind of funny, just how old it is. And it's Alex O'Connor when I believe he was 18 at the time of it. That's what they talked about. I might be mistaken, but I believe he was 18 at the time. And it was also with Frank Turek. I think Frank Turek did an excellent job. The way that he approached the conversation was very considerate and loving. And there was one main point that I really appreciated in the video, and I think it's very profound and good. One of the main, well, okay, in case nobody knows who I'm talking about, Frank Turek is a Christian apologist, and Alex O'Connor is an atheist. And so the topic was about atheism and what is a better way of explaining the universe, um, and morality specifically. And one of the main points that Frank Turek talked about that I thought was cool was the idea that there are principles that we accept as true and foundational that are that put in place certain guidelines for everything else we might build upon that foundation. And so one of those things is the acceptance that logic is real, that we can actually make logical and coherent argument. That's one assumption that we make every day and that we believe, as well as, that that things in our perception actually exist. I mean, that's the basis of science, right? Um, and one thing that Frank was saying is that there's one principle that we all hold um, very deeply within us, that morality is real and objective. And what he says to Alex O'Connor is, why do you reject that basic principle because of your atheism? And why do you accept atheism, which is less of an inclination, um, over that? And I thought that was a really profound question because basically what he's saying is if morality is objective, then God exists. You don't accept morality as objective, even though you have a deep inclination and desire to accept that as true, and and naturally you would accept that morality is real, but that necessitates God. So instead, Alex O'Connor uh, thinks that atheism is true, and so rejects morality as objective, rejects that deep inclination to accept morality as objective. And I thought that was a great point to say that it seems that it would be more reasonable to accept morality as real than to believe that God doesn't exist. So I thought that was a great point of the video. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. So do you have any thoughts?
Well, uh, boy, just so much, so many circular discussions. Depend upon who you're talking to. So, um, if an atheist, my thinking is, if an atheist can say that there's no uh, objective morality, now that's a truth statement, right?
They are making a true statement,
And
yeah.
so they have to accept that there's such a thing as absolutes. But it would seem to me that if the atheist felt that was really true, then he wouldn't care whether you had objective morals or not. And I would say that they would be exposed as being not really consistent with that because they want their banker to be objectively moral. They want their, the person that deliver some product to their house to deliver the right amount for the right cost that they agreed upon. So I don't know. It seems like obviously what yeah, Frank is pretty good at uh and what would you say, cordial in dealing with people that reject God. And
Yeah, well,
so
okay, so the thing is, for Alex O'Connor, he's not necessarily saying there is no such thing as objective truth. What he's saying is
right.
that our evaluation of that objective truth is subjective, is what he's saying. When it comes to logical truths and reasoning itself, he says that reasoning is a subjective exercise, whereas
Hmm.
reason or the logical coherence of the world is objective. It's just us as subjects analyzing that is subjective because we are subjects. Um,
Hmm.
and so that's one of his main points. The thing is that he's willing to say these certain things are objective, but morality is not. And so that's the biggest issue, is that he's willing to say that God doesn't exist is more um is objective in a sense, but morality being real is not objective. And so that's my understanding of what he's saying. And then also, just one thing, and maybe this is an entirely different like road, but there is in Nietzsche's writings, who is the founder of postmodernism, which is a big deal, a big problem. Um, he says that there are useful fictions, which would be like there's morality isn't real to Nietzsche, but it's useful to have morality. And so, yeah, it would be great. It would be better because if you had your banker as believe in objective morality, but the way Nietzsche would say it is it's a useful fiction, and so we should keep it. It's like, yeah, I would rather them do it, but it's still fiction, is what he's saying. But there's a certain truth to that, but we are Christians, so it's not absolutely true, but it's true. Like, a Muslim could be your banker, but they aren't, they have a sense of morality, but they aren't, Christians, and they don't believe in the true God. And so it's a useful fiction that they believe that there's some God and some morality, but it doesn't mean that their worldview is true. That's an example of that. The thing is, to assume that every religion is a useful fiction is to, um, you know, really not consider all of them, and to consider Christianity. Because I wouldn't say Christianity is a useful fiction because I believe it's true. But there is such a I think there is such a thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Nietzsche and some of the other ones, and the modern atheists, they love to change the rules and what we would call change the goalposts. So, so they want to define all the things in order to fit into their atheism. And it's like, well, why do you get to define all things? Why can't those definitions be argued about? And so, when he says a useful fiction, um, uh, is I would argue with him, uh, and I know what he's saying, but again, it's very high level sophistry and aversion and avoidance of factual matters. Um, uh, Maybe he would say there are also non-useful fictions. You know,
Yeah,
if people believe that if is believing in a unicorn a useful fiction. Well, not if you
to
it
make
would
a
become
story, it would be.
for a story, but it wouldn't be for like your daughter or your son wants to start a unicorn farm and sell it to s- sell them in order to make a living. That would be a non-useful fiction, right?
Yeah,
Because now, granted, they wouldn't need any fences. They'd save a lot on fences, and they would save a lot on feed. Actually, they'd save a lot if they could get just somebody else to buy this thing that they're holding that isn't really there. I guess it would be 100% profit. There would be no. It might be a good business, but so a lot of times it just seems like Nietzsche very cleverly moves the common term, moving the goalposts. Say, oh, that's not a score. Well, why isn't that a score? Because it didn't go through the goalposts. Well, you moved the goalposts. So, okay, now I'll use your goalpost and I'll shoot through it. And then you shoot through it and disrupt their game and they'll move the goalposts again. And so, anyway,
Well, Nietzsche's a long discussion.
yeah,
He's not a simple thinker, and I'm not saying that you're saying that he is. I'm just saying, there's a lot of detail that would have to be ironed out here. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well, good short discussion.
yes.
Pinchy, Godspeed.
Have a good week.